The mountain wind howled like a wounded animal as Elena wiped down the last table of the Pine Ridge Cafe. It was nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, and the storm had chased away even the truckers who usually stopped for coffee on their way through the pass. She should have been afraid, working alone this late. But fear was a luxury Elena couldn't afford. Not when the tips from the graveyard shift paid for her baby daughter's medicine. The lights flickered. Once, twice. Then she heard it, a sound that made her blood run cold. Her daughter's cry, but wrong, desperate, weak. Elena dropped the dish rag and ran to the back office where she'd made a small bed for 3-month-old Lily. The baby lay in the makeshift crib, her tiny chest struggling with each breath. Her lips had turned blue. No, no, no. Elena scooped up her daughter, feeling the heat radiating from the infant's body. Fever, another infection. The third one this month. Lily had been born premature, her lungs underdeveloped, her immune system weak. Every illness was a battle, and Elena was losing the war. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands. The screen showed 2:17 a.m. The clinic was closed. The hospital was 40 miles away, through mountain roads made treacherous by the storm. Her car had died last week, and she hadn't had the money to fix it. Lily's breathing became more labored. A horrible rattling sound came from her tiny chest. Please, baby. Please hold on. Elena rocked her daughter, tears streaming down her face. She'd tried everything, worked 3 jobs, sold everything she owned, begged every charity, every church, every social service. But premature babies needed constant medical care, expensive medications, specialists. And Elena was drowning in debt, with no insurance and no one to help. The missing person reports had been piling up lately. Bodies found drained of blood, throats torn open. The town called them animal attacks, but the way people whispered in the cafe, the way they locked their doors before sunset, they knew better. Everyone in Pine Ridge knew about Castle Noctis in the mountains, about King Theron Dravos, the vampire lord who'd ruled these territories for over 1,000 years. The stories varied. Some said he was a monster who fed on the innocent. Others whispered that he sometimes granted favors to desperate humans, for a price. Elena had always dismissed the stories as superstition, mountain folklore to scare children. But now, holding her dying daughter, feeling Lily's life slipping away with each struggled breath, Elena realized superstition might be her only hope. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," Elena whispered, wrapping Lily in her wool shawl, the one her grandmother had knitted, the only warm thing she owned. "Mommy's going to fix this, I promise." She locked the cafe and stepped into the storm. The rain lashed her face immediately, soaking through her thin uniform. Elena clutched Lily against her chest, using her body to shield the baby from the worst of the downpour. Every step was agony. Her feet were already blistered from the double shift, and the mountain path was steep and treacherous. But she didn't stop. The path to Castle Noctis wasn't marked, but everyone knew where it was. You followed the old logging road until it ended, then continued up through the forest where the trees grew twisted and wrong, where the darkness felt alive. Elena climbed for over an hour, her legs burning, her arms aching from holding Lily. The baby had stopped crying, which was worse. She lay too still, too quiet, her breathing so shallow, Elena had to keep checking to make sure her daughter was still alive. "Stay with me, baby. Please, just a little further." The forest opened suddenly onto a clearing, and Elena stopped, breathless. Castle Noctis rose before her like a nightmare carved from obsidian. Towers pierced the storm clouds, windows glowing with blood-red light. The main gate stood open, an invitation or a trap. Elena's entire body trembled, from cold, from exhaustion, from fear. This was insane. She was bringing her baby to a vampire's lair, to a creature that might kill them both. But Lily was dying anyway. At least this way, Elena was fighting. She crossed the threshold. The courtyard was eerily silent despite the raging storm. Dead fountains lined the path to the massive doors. As Elena approached, they swung open on their own, revealing a vast entrance hall lit by hundreds of flickering candles. "Hello?" Elena's voice echoed in the cavernous space. "Please, I need help. My baby is—" A figure materialized from the shadows so quickly, Elena gasped and stumbled backward. He stood before her, impossibly tall, wrapped in a black cloak that seemed to absorb the candlelight. When he pushed back his hood, Elena's breath caught. He was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Sharp cheekbones, pale skin that seemed to glow, dark hair that fell past his shoulders. But his eyes were what made her grip Lily tighter. They were the color of fresh blood, scanning her and her baby with predatory focus. A human. His voice was deep, ancient, carrying the weight of centuries. In my castle, uninvited. Elena's knees buckled. She sank to the stone floor, still clutching Lily, and bowed her head. Please, your majesty, I'm begging you. My daughter is dying. The vampire king said nothing. Elena could feel his gaze on her, assessing, analyzing. I have nothing to offer you, Elena continued, her voice breaking. No money, no power, nothing of value, but I'll give you anything. My life, my blood, my service, anything you want. Just please, please save her. Silence stretched between them, broken only by Lily's labored breathing and the storm raging outside. Look at me, human. Elena raised her head slowly. The vampire king stood directly in front of her now, so close she could feel the cold radiating from his body. Up close, she could see the barely contained power in his frame, the ancient fury simmering beneath his controlled exterior. He could kill her without effort, snap her neck like a twig. You would trade your life for hers? He asked. Yes. Elena didn't hesitate. Without question. Your freedom? Yes. Your soul? If I have one to give, it's yours. Just save my baby, please. The vampire king stared at her for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to Lily, and something flickered across his face. Something that looked almost like pain. How old? 3 months. She was born early. Her lungs are weak. Every infection, Elena's voice cracked. The doctors say without constant medical care, she won't survive, and I can't afford. I've tried everything. The king held out his hands. Give her to me. Every maternal instinct screamed at Elena to refuse. But Lily's lips were turning blue again, her breathing even more shallow. With trembling hands, Elena passed her daughter to the vampire king. He lifted Lily with surprising gentleness, pulling back the shawl to examine the baby. Lily opened her eyes, gray like her father's, and stared up at the vampire without fear. Her tiny fist curled around his finger. The king went completely still. This child, he said softly, has known nothing but struggle since birth. I can smell the sickness in her blood, the weakness in her lungs. He looked at Elena, and she saw something shift in those blood-red eyes. You would give everything for her. Your life, your freedom. You would kneel before a monster and beg. She's my daughter. Elena's tears fell freely now. She's everything. The vampire king studied her face for a long moment. Then he did something Elena never expected. He knelt before her, still holding Lily. I lost my own child, he said quietly. 300 years ago. A daughter, not much older than this one, killed by human soldiers who feared what she might become. His jaw tightened. I swore I would never feel that pain again, that I would never care for anything mortal, anything fragile. He looked down at Lily, and Elena saw ancient grief in his face. But I remember what it was like, to hold my daughter, to know I would burn the world to keep her safe. He stood, cradling Lily against his chest. I will save your child. But the price? Anything. Elena interrupted. I told you anything. You don't even know what I'll ask. It doesn't matter, as long as Lily lives. The vampire king's expression was unreadable. Then rise, Elena. Rise and follow me. Elena followed the vampire king through corridors that seemed to stretch into infinity. Candles flickered in wall sconces, casting shadows that moved with unnatural life. Her wet uniform dripped water onto ancient carpets, but the king didn't seem to notice or care. He moved with fluid grace, still cradling Lily against his chest, and Elena had to half-run to keep up. They entered a chamber that took Elena's breath away. It was vast, lined with floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with bottles, vials, and ancient books. A stone table dominated the center, covered with strange instruments that gleamed in the candlelight. It looked like a laboratory from another century. This was my queen's workroom, Theron said, carefully laying Lily on a cushioned surface he'd cleared with one sweep of his arm. She was a healer before I turned her. She spent 300 years collecting knowledge, creating medicines that could help both humans and vampires. He moved to the shelves, pulling down bottles with practiced efficiency. After she died, I locked this room. I couldn't bear to... His voice caught. But perhaps she guided you here. Perhaps this is what she would have wanted. Elena watched as he mixed liquids in a crystal vial, his hands steady despite the emotion in his voice. What happened to her? She grew tired. Theron's jaw tightened. Immortality is not the gift humans believe it to be. After 1,000 years, she said she'd seen enough, loved enough, lost enough. She chose to walk into the sun one morning while I slept. He brought the vial to Lily, who was barely conscious now. This will heal the infection and strengthen her lungs. But it contains vampire essence, diluted, carefully prepared. It won't turn her, but it will change her. Make her stronger, harder to kill. She'll have a normal human lifespan, but she'll be different. Different how? She may develop enhanced senses, faster healing, perhaps even an aversion to direct sunlight, though nothing like what we experience. Theron met Elena's eyes. Your daughter will live a full life, but she'll never be entirely human. This is the price. Once I give her this, there's no reversing it. Elena looked at her baby, at Lily's chest struggling with each breath. Will she be in pain? No. She'll be stronger than she's ever been. Then do it. Elena's voice was firm. Please. Theron tilted Lily's head back gently and let 3 drops fall onto her tongue. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the baby gasped, a deep, full breath that filled her lungs completely. Color flooded back into her face. Her eyes opened wide, focusing with surprising alertness, and she smiled. Elena sobbed with relief, reaching for her daughter. Theron handed Lily over carefully, and Elena held her close, feeling the steady, strong heartbeat against her chest. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The gratitude is premature. Theron's voice had gone cold again, distant. We haven't discussed your payment. Elena looked up, still clutching Lily. You said anything. I meant it. Did you? The vampire king circled her slowly, like a predator assessing prey. Let me tell you what I see, Elena. I see a woman who works 3 jobs to support her child, who has no family, no husband, no one to depend on, who lives in a single room above a cafe and eats whatever the cook doesn't throw away. Each word was a knife, cutting through Elena's pride. But they were true. I see a woman who's been alone for a very long time, Theron continued, who's forgotten what it means to be cared for, who's so used to suffering that she considers it normal. He stopped in front of her. Am I wrong? No, Elena whispered. Then here is my price. Theron's blood-red eyes burned into hers. You will stay here, in this castle, you and your daughter both. Elena's heart hammered. As your prisoner? As my queen. The words hung in the air between them, impossible and absurd. Elena stared at the vampire king, certain she'd misheard. What? You heard correctly. Theron moved to the window, looking out at the storm. I've ruled this kingdom for 1,000 years, alone since my wife died. The court has been pressuring me to remarry, to produce an heir. I've refused, but their demands grow more insistent. He turned back to her. You need protection, resources, a home for your daughter. I need a consort to satisfy the court, and someone who understands what it means to love a child so much you'd sacrifice everything. His expression was unreadable. It's a practical arrangement, nothing more. Elena's mind raced. You want me to be your queen? I'm a waitress. I have no education, no status, no... You have courage. Theron interrupted. You climbed a mountain in a storm, carrying a dying baby to beg a monster for help. You knelt before me and offered your life without hesitation. That's worth more than any noble blood or political alliance. He moved closer. I won't lie to you, Elena. This won't be easy. My court will despise you. They'll see you as an upstart human who doesn't belong. They'll try to break you, humiliate you, drive you away. And there will be those who seek to harm you and your daughter simply because you're mine. Then why would you do this? Elena asked. Why put us in danger? Because you'll be safer here than anywhere else in this world. Theron's voice was absolute. As my queen, you'll have my protection, my resources, my power. Anyone who touches you or your child will answer to me personally. And I promise you, Elena, there is no force in this kingdom or any other that will risk my wrath." Elena looked down at Lily, who was now sleeping peacefully, her breathing deep and even. For the first time in 3 months, her daughter looked healthy, strong, safe. "What would you expect from me?" Elena asked quietly. "As your queen? Public appearances, presence at court functions, the performance of unity." Theron's expression softened slightly. "I won't force myself on you. Your chambers will be your own. This is a political arrangement, not a romantic one. You'll have freedom within the castle, protection, wealth. Your daughter will want for nothing." It was too much, too surreal. Elena had come here expecting to die, expecting chains and slavery. Instead, this ancient vampire king was offering her everything. Why? The question came out as a whisper. Why really? Theron was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries of grief. "Because when you knelt before me, holding your dying daughter, I saw my wife, the way she looked at our child, the way she would have burned the world to save her." He met Elena's eyes, and I realized that after 300 years of isolation, I'm tired of being alone. I don't want love. I buried that with my family, but I wouldn't mind companionship, someone who understands loss, someone real. Elena understood then. He wasn't offering her a fairy tale. He was offering survival, partnership, 2 broken people creating something stable in the ruins of their separate tragedies. "What do I call you?" she asked. "In public, Your Majesty." "In private," he hesitated. "Theron." "Theron." Elena tested the name. It felt strange on her tongue, intimate. She looked at her sleeping daughter, then back at the vampire king. "If I agree, Lily comes first. Always. Whatever political games, whatever the court demands, my daughter's safety and happiness are non-negotiable." "Agreed. And I want to learn. Reading, writing, history, politics. If I'm going to be your queen, I won't be a puppet. I'll be educated, capable." A ghost of a smile touched Theron's lips. "My wife would have liked you. She always said the most dangerous weapon was a mind that refused to stop learning." "Then we have a deal?" Elena extended her hand, the gesture absurdly human in this supernatural negotiation. Theron took her hand. His skin was cold, his grip gentle but firm. "We have a deal, Elena. Welcome to Castle Noctis. Welcome to eternity." Thunder cracked overhead, and in the flash of lightning, Elena saw her future reflected in the ancient vampire's eyes. Terrifying, uncertain, impossible, and somehow, the first real hope she'd felt in years. The castle came alive at dawn, though not in any way Elena expected. As the sun rose, she heard the sound of shutters slamming closed throughout the massive structure, the thick clang of metal reinforcements sliding into place. Within minutes, Castle Noctis had transformed into a fortress of darkness. Theron had given her chambers in the East Wing, a suite of rooms larger than any house Elena had ever lived in. Silk curtains in deep burgundy-framed windows, now covered by heavy shutters. A 4-poster bed dominated the bedroom, its canopy embroidered with silver thread that caught the candlelight. A smaller room adjoined it, already furnished as a nursery. Someone had anticipated Lily's presence. "These were my daughter's rooms," Theron said quietly, standing in the nursery doorway. "I couldn't bear to change them after she died, but perhaps it's time." Elena looked around at the ancient toys, the small clothes preserved in glass cases, the paintings of a dark-haired child with her father's eyes. What was her name? Sarah. She was 7 when they killed her. Theron's hands clenched into fists. She'd gone into the village to help heal a sick farmer. She'd inherited her mother's gift for medicine. The soldiers didn't care. They saw a vampire child and they... His voice broke. Elena shifted Lily in her arms and did something reckless. She reached out and touched Theron's arm. "I'm sorry." The vampire king stared at her hand on his sleeve as if he'd forgotten what human comfort felt like. "It was 300 years ago. I should be past it by now." "You never get past losing a child," Elena said softly. "You just learn to carry the weight." Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Understanding. recognition. Two parents bound by love and loss. A sharp knock interrupted the moment. The door opened to reveal a tall, elegant vampire woman in a crimson gown. Her beauty was sharp as broken glass, her smile predatory. "My king, I heard we have a guest." Theron's expression went cold. "Lady Moira, this is Elena, my betrothed." Moira's smile never wavered, but her eyes blazed with fury. Betrothed? How delightful and so sudden. She glided into the room, circling Elena like a shark. A human. How refreshing. "Tell me, dear, what makes you think you're qualified to be queen?" "I don't think I'm qualified," Elena replied honestly. "But I'm willing to learn." "How sweet." Moira's tone dripped venom. "The king has always had a soft spot for charity cases. First that healer woman, now a waitress." She turned to Theron. "The court will be thrilled, I'm sure. A human queen. What could possibly go wrong?" "The court will accept my decision," Theron said coldly. "As will you, Moira. Unless you'd prefer exile?" Moira's mask of civility cracked for just a moment, revealing the rage beneath. "Of course, Your Majesty. We all live to serve." She swept toward the door, then paused. "Oh, one more thing. The council is assembled in the Great Hall. They're eager to meet their new queen." After she left, Elena turned to Theron. "She hates me. She hates anyone who threatens her position. Moira has been angling to become queen for 2 centuries. This isn't personal. You're simply in her way. That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No." Theron's smile was grim. "It's supposed to make you careful. Moira is dangerous, cunning, and patient. She'll smile while she plots your downfall. Trust no one in this court, Elena. No one except me." Within the hour, Elena found herself standing in the great hall, facing a sea of vampire faces. They sat in tiered rows like an amphitheater, hundreds of them, all staring at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Lily slept in her arms, blissfully unaware of the tension crackling through the air. Theron sat on his throne, a massive structure of black stone and silver. He'd offered Elena the smaller throne beside his, but she'd refused. She wasn't queen yet. She wouldn't sit there until she'd earned it. "Members of the court," Theron's voice resonated through the hall. "I present Elena and her daughter Lily. Elena has agreed to become my consort and queen." The murmuring was immediate and ugly. Elena heard the whispers: human, peasant, disgrace, insult. A scarred vampire stood, his voice booming. "Your Majesty, surely you jest. A human queen? It's never been done. Our laws, our traditions?" "I am the law," Theron interrupted, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper that somehow carried through the entire hall. "I am tradition, and I say Elena will be queen. Does anyone wish to challenge this?" The scarred vampire sat down quickly, but Elena could see the fury in his eyes. She recognized the look. It was the same expression she'd seen on the face of the cafe owner who'd tried to short her pay, on the landlord who'd threatened eviction. The look of someone who saw her as beneath them. She'd dealt with that look her entire life. "If I may speak," Elena said. Her voice sounded small in the vast hall, but she forced herself to continue. "I know I'm not what you expected. I'm not noble or educated or vampire. I'm just a woman trying to save her daughter's life." "How touching," Moira called from her seat. "But that doesn't make you qualified to rule." "You're right, it doesn't." Elena met her gaze directly. "But I'm not trying to rule. King Theron rules. I'm just trying to survive and learn, and maybe, if I'm lucky, be useful." She looked around the hall. "I don't expect you to like me. I don't expect you to respect me. But I promise you this. I will work harder than anyone here to prove I belong. And I will never, ever take this position for granted." The hall was silent. Then, surprisingly, an elderly vampire in the back row stood. "She has courage, at least. That's more than some of our nobles can claim." A few others nodded. Not many, but enough that Elena felt a small spark of hope. Theron stood. "The bonding ceremony will take place in 7 days. Until then, Elena is under my personal protection. Harm her or her child, and answer to me." He descended from the dais and offered Elena his arm. "Come, I'll show you the rest of your new home." As they left the hall, Elena heard the explosion of conversation behind them. Debate, argument, outrage. She'd just become the most controversial figure in vampire society. and she had 7 days to figure out how to survive it. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Elena was assigned tutors, 3 ancient vampires who looked at her with varying degrees of disdain and set about teaching her everything a queen should know: history, politics, etiquette, languages. She studied while Lily slept, her head spinning with information about bloodline hierarchies, territorial disputes, and the complex web of alliances that held the vampire kingdom together. "You're holding the fork wrong," sniffed Madame Celeste, her etiquette tutor. "A queen must be graceful, refined. You eat like a peasant." "I am a peasant," Elena replied, fighting to keep her temper. She'd been up since dawn, studying by candlelight, and Lily had been fussy all morning. Her patience was wearing thin. "We're a peasant," Celeste corrected. "Now you must be something more. Again, from the beginning." Elena wanted to throw the fork across the room. Instead, she picked it up and tried again, and again, and again, until her hand cramped and tears of frustration burned behind her eyes. Theron found her that evening in the library, surrounded by books, Lily sleeping in a basket beside her desk. "Still studying?" "I'm behind by several centuries," Elena said, without looking up. "Your court knows things I can't even pronounce. If I'm going to do this, I need to—" She stopped, finally meeting his eyes. "Why me, really? You could have any vampire noble, someone who already knows this world." Theron settled into the chair across from her. "Would you like the honest answer?" "Always. Because they all want something from me. Power, status, immortality. They see the throne, not the man sitting on it." He gestured to the books spread before her. "You came here expecting nothing, wanting only to save your daughter. There was no calculation, no ambition, just desperate love. That kind of honesty is rare." "I'm not honest because I'm noble," Elena said quietly. "I'm honest because I'm too tired to lie." Theron laughed, a real laugh, rusty from disuse. Even better. Over the following days, Elena began to learn the rhythms of Castle Noctis. The servants, all human, moved through the corridors like ghosts. They'd been given immortality contracts, 20 years of service in exchange for vampire blood that would extend their lives. Most were desperate people like Elena had been, trading freedom for survival. She made a point of learning their names, thanking them for their work. Small gestures that seemed to confuse them. One young maid, barely 18, actually cried when Elena asked about her family. "No one's ever asked before, my lady," the girl whispered. "We're just furniture to most of them." "Not to me," Elena said firmly. "Never to me." Word spread. The human queen who treated servants like people. Some vampires mocked her for it. But Elena noticed the servants stood a little straighter when she passed, smiled a little brighter. She was building something, brick by brick. Not power, but loyalty. On the 5th day, Moira struck. Elena was in the garden, a strange place of night-blooming flowers that only opened in darkness, when she heard Lily crying. She'd left the baby with a nursemaid for just 10 minutes. 10 minutes to clear her head, to breathe air that didn't smell like ancient stone and candle wax. She ran back to the nursery and found it empty. No Lily, no nursemaid. Just an open window and the sound of laughter drifting from somewhere below. Terror unlike anything Elena had ever known seized her heart. She ran through the corridors, following Lily's cries, and burst into a sitting room where Moira held the baby awkwardly, as if Lily might bite her. "Give her to me," Elena said, her voice deadly calm. "Relax, human. I was just admiring the child." Moira's smile was poisonous. Such a fragile thing. It would be so easy for something to happen to her. An accident. A tragedy. "If you hurt her." "You'll what?" Moira laughed. "You have no power here. You're a temporary amusement for a grieving king. Once he tires of you, and he will, you'll be discarded like all the others before you." Elena crossed the room and took Lily from Moira's arms. The baby immediately stopped crying, nuzzling against her mother's chest. "You're wrong," Elena said quietly. "I'm not here because Theron finds me amusing. I'm here because I understand him, because I've lost what he's lost and survived it. You can't compete with that, Moira. No amount of beauty or power can give you what I have, the knowledge of what it means to keep going when everything inside you wants to die." Moira's face twisted with rage. You think you're special? You think love will protect you? I've seen 100 humans like you come and go. You all think you're different. You're not. Maybe. Elena held Lily closer. But I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. That evening, Elena told Theron what happened. His rage was cold, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. He summoned Moira to the throne room and delivered his judgment in front of the entire court. You will leave Castle Noctis tonight. You are banished to the outer territories for 50 years. If you return before then, I will personally ensure you never threaten anyone again. Moira's composure finally cracked. For a human? You're banishing me for a worthless human? For touching what is mine, Theron corrected, his voice like ice. For threatening a child under my protection. For forgetting that I am king and my word is absolute law. Guards dragged Moira from the hall, her screams echoing off the stone walls. The court watched in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they knelt. Not to Theron. He was already their king. They knelt to Elena, not out of respect, out of fear. Elena stood beside the throne, holding Lily, and understood the truth. She wasn't their queen yet, but she was under the protection of the most powerful vampire in the kingdom, and that made her untouchable. For now. The bonding ceremony took place on the 7th night, in a chamber deep beneath Castle Noctis. Elena descended stone steps, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, following Theron through corridors lit only by torches that burned with an eerie blue flame. Lily was safe with a trusted servant, one of the few Elena had come to rely on. And for the first time since arriving at the castle, Elena was truly alone with the Vampire King. This is where my kind perform our most sacred rituals, Theron said, his voice echoing off the ancient walls. Births, deaths, bondings. The stone here is older than my kingdom, older than most civilizations. They entered a circular chamber. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them, and the floor was inscribed with symbols that seemed to pulse with their own light. An altar stood at the center, carved from a single piece of obsidian. What happens now? Elena asked, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. A blood oath. You'll drink from me, binding your life to mine. It won't turn you. That requires death and rebirth, but it will change you. Extend your life, strengthen your body, tie your fate to mine. Theron moved to the altar, his movements ritualistic, precise. Once done, it cannot be undone. If I die, you die. If you betray me, you die. This is not a human marriage, Elena. This is forever. Elena thought of Lily sleeping peacefully upstairs, of the medicine that kept her daughter healthy, the safety of castle walls, the chance at a life neither of them could have imagined a week ago. I understand. Do you? Theron turned to face her fully. Your life will no longer be your own. You'll age slowly, perhaps a year for every decade that passes. You'll outlive everyone you ever knew. You'll watch the world change while you remain frozen in this moment. Is that truly what you want? I want my daughter to live. I want her to be safe, educated, happy. If the price is immortality, Elena met his blood-red eyes without flinching. Then I'll pay it. Theron studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Kneel before the altar. Elena knelt on the cold stone. Theron stood before her and drew a ceremonial blade across his palm. Blood welled up, dark and ancient. He held his hand out to her. Drink and be bound to me. Rise and be my queen. Elena took his hand and pressed her lips to the wound. The blood tasted like copper and smoke and something else, power, raw and intoxicating. It burned down her throat like liquid fire. She gasped, trying to pull away, but Theron's other hand cradled the back of her head, holding her in place. Don't fight it. Let it change you. The fire spread through her veins, remaking her from the inside out. Elena felt her heartbeat slow, steady, each thump resonating through her entire body. Her senses sharpened. She could hear Theron's heartbeat now, slow as a funeral drum, and the drip of water somewhere far above, and the whisper of wind through corridors a mile away. Colors became more vivid even in the dim light. She could see every line of Theron's face, every thread in his black clothing. The pain crescendoed, and Elena screamed. Then suddenly it stopped. She collapsed forward and Theron caught her. The worst is over. Breathe. Elena drew in air and nearly choked. She could taste the atmosphere, dust and stone and ancient magic. What did you do to me? Gave you the strength to survive this life. Theron helped her stand. How do you feel? Elena tested her limbs. She felt powerful. Her constant exhaustion had vanished. The aches and pains from years of hard work were gone. She felt like she could run for miles without tiring. I feel incredible. It will fade slightly as your body adjusts, but you'll never be as weak as you were. Theron released her, stepping back. You are bound to me now, Elena, my queen in blood and power. They returned to the upper levels to find the court assembled in the great hall. Word had spread. The ritual was complete. Elena walked beside Theron, her head high, and felt the weight of hundreds of vampire gazes on her. At the dais, Theron turned to address his people. The bonding is complete. Elena is now bound to me by blood oath. She is your queen. You will treat her with the respect due her station or answer to me. An elderly vampire stepped forward, the same one who'd defended Elena before. Your Majesty, if I may ask, what of heirs? A human queen cannot bear vampire children. Elena felt Theron tense beside her. It was a question he'd clearly anticipated and dreaded. I have an heir, Theron said quietly. Her name is Lily. The hall exploded with outrage. A human child? Born of mortal blood? This is madness! Silence! Theron's roar shook the chandeliers. When the hall quieted, his voice was cold steel. Lily is under my protection. She carries vampire essence in her blood now. She is stronger than any human child. She will be raised as my daughter, trained to rule. And when the time comes, if she chooses, she will be turned. You're asking us to accept a mortal as future queen? The scarred vampire, Commander Varric, Elena had learned, stood, his face twisted with fury. To kneel to weakness? I'm asking you to accept change, Theron replied. For 1,000 years we've isolated ourselves, fed on humans, treated them as cattle. And what has it gained us? Fear, rebellion, endless conflict. He gestured to Elena. This woman climbed a mountain in a storm to save her child. She knelt before me and offered her life without hesitation. That is not weakness, Commander. That is strength of a kind we've forgotten. Varric's hand moved to his sword. You've been compromised by grief. This human has twisted your judgment. For the good of the kingdom, I challenge your right to rule. The hall went deathly silent. Elena's newly sharpened senses caught the rustle of weapons being drawn, the shift of bodies into fighting stances. A challenge to the king's authority was treason, but it was also legal. Theron smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Elena had ever seen. You wish to challenge me, Varric? Very well, I accept. We meet in the arena at midnight. He descended from the dais, moving until he was inches from the commander. And when I'm done with you, there will be no question who rules here. Varric bowed mockingly. As you wish, Your Majesty. I look forward to freeing this court from your corrupted judgment. As the crowd dispersed, Elena grabbed Theron's arm. What have you done? You can't fight him. What if you lose? I won't lose. You don't know that. Theron looked at her, and she saw centuries of violence in his eyes. Elena, I was a warrior before I was a king. I've survived 1,000 years of assassination attempts, coups, and rebellions. Varric is skilled, but he's not even 500 years old. He touched her face gently. I appreciate your concern, but trust me, this ends tonight. The arena was an amphitheater carved into the bedrock beneath the castle. Stone seats rose in tiers around a circular fighting pit, and by midnight, every seat was filled. Vampires had come from across the kingdom to witness this, their king challenged by one of his own commanders. Elena sat in the royal box, Lily sleeping in her arms, and tried not to let her fear show. Beside her, an old vampire named Gabriel, Theron's advisor, leaned close. The king has fought in this arena 37 times over the centuries. He's never lost. There's always a first time, Elena whispered. Not tonight. Gabriel's weathered face was confident. Watch and see. Theron entered the arena, wearing only black leather pants, his chest bare, no weapons except his own body. He moved like liquid death, every step controlled, purposeful. Across from him, Varric wore full armor and carried a sword forged from some dark metal that seemed to drink the torchlight. "The challenge is issued and accepted," announced a referee. "The combat continues until death or surrender. King Theron of House Dravos versus Commander Varric of House Mordain. Begin." Varric attacked immediately, his sword a blur of lethal precision. Theron dodged, moving so fast Elena's enhanced eyes could barely track him. The blade whistled past where his head had been a fraction of a second before. "He's toying with him," Gabriel murmured. "The king could end this in seconds, but he wants everyone to see what happens when you challenge his authority." Theron danced away from another strike and another. He hadn't thrown a single blow yet, just dodged, graceful as a ghost, making Varric look slow and clumsy by comparison. "Stand and fight!" Varric roared, frustration bleeding through. "As you wish." Theron's hand shot out, catching the sword mid-swing. The blade bit into his palm, but he didn't flinch. He ripped it from Varric's grasp and tossed it aside. "Let's make this fair." What happened next was brutal. Theron moved like a nightmare given form, his fists and feet striking with devastating precision. Varric tried to defend himself, but he might as well have been fighting a hurricane. Theron broke his arm with a casual twist, shattered his ribs with a knee strike, sent him sprawling with a kick that cracked the stone floor where Varric landed. The commander struggled to rise, blood pouring from his mouth. "You've weakened. That human has made you soft." "Soft?" Theron laughed, cold and merciless. He grabbed Varric by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Let me show you what soft looks like." He threw Varric across the arena. The commander hit the wall with a sickening crack and slid to the ground, barely conscious. Theron addressed the crowd. "Anyone else wish to question my judgment? Anyone else think I've been compromised?" He turned slowly, his eyes blazing crimson, daring anyone to speak. "I am still your king. I am still the nightmare your enemies fear, and I will not tolerate disrespect to my queen or my chosen heir." He moved to where Varric lay broken. "You challenged me because you thought grief had made me weak. You were wrong. Grief made me empty. But Elena," he looked up at the royal box, at Elena holding Lily. "She reminded me what I'm fighting for. Not just power, not just survival, something worth protecting." Theron grabbed Varric's head. "I could kill you, easily, but I'm going to show mercy instead. Not because I'm soft, but because I'm strong enough to choose mercy." He released the commander. "You're exiled. 50 years in the outer wastes. If you return before then, I won't be so generous." The crowd was silent. Then one vampire stood and bowed to Theron. Then another, and another. Within moments, the entire arena was on their feet, showing submission to their king. Theron climbed the tiers to the royal box. He was covered in Varric's blood, his own wounds already healing. He knelt before Elena, there in front of everyone, and took her hand. "I told you I wouldn't lose." Elena's eyes burned with tears. "You're insane." "Probably." He smiled, genuinely smiled. "But I'm your insane vampire king now, for better or worse." The next days brought unexpected changes. Vampires who'd sneered at Elena before now bowed when she passed. Servants smiled openly, no longer afraid of punishment for showing favor to the human queen. And Lily, thriving on her enhanced health, began to laugh, a sound that seemed to brighten even the perpetually dark halls of Castle Noctis. Elena threw herself into her studies with renewed determination. She learned the intricacies of vampire politics, memorized the genealogies of the major houses, practiced speaking 3 different languages. At night, after Lily was asleep, she'd sit with Theron in his private study, and they'd talk. "Tell me about your wife," Elena said one evening. Theron was quiet for a long moment. "Her name was Isadora. She was human when I met her, a healer in a small village. My kingdom was at war, and I was wounded. She found me and nursed me back to health, never knowing I was the vampire king her people feared. You fell in love with her." "I did. And when she learned what I was, she wasn't afraid. She said she'd seen enough death to know that monsters came in all forms, and sometimes the human ones were worse." He stared into the fireplace. "I offered her immortality. She accepted. We had 300 years together. a daughter, a kingdom at peace. What changed? She said the world had become too heavy, that she'd lived long enough to see all the patterns repeat: wars, peace, wars again, love, loss, love again. She was tired, Elena. So tired that even our daughter's love couldn't keep her here. His voice broke. I woke one morning and she was gone. Walked into the sunrise without a word. Elena reached across the space between their chairs and took his hand. His skin was cold, but his grip was strong. I'm sorry. So am I. Theron looked at their joined hands. I swore I'd never feel anything again, that I'd rule through fear and power alone. And then you came, desperate and brave, and so full of love for your daughter that you'd face a monster without hesitation. He met her eyes. You reminded me what it felt like to care. Something shifted between them in that moment. The careful distance they'd maintained began to crack. This wasn't just a political arrangement anymore. It was becoming something real. 3 months passed. Winter settled over the mountains, burying Castle Noctis in snow and ice. Elena celebrated Lily's first birthday with a small gathering of vampires who'd become, surprisingly, friends. Gabriel taught Lily to clap her hands. A young vampire named Soren made shadow puppets that delighted the baby. And Theron, formal and distant in public, spent hours reading to Lily in private, his ancient voice softening as he recited stories from centuries past. Elena's transformation was nearly complete. Her body had fully adapted to the vampire blood in her system. She moved with unconscious grace now, her reflexes sharp, her strength far beyond human limits. She could go days without sleep, though she still needed food and water. She was something new, not quite human, not quite vampire, something between. The court had accepted her mostly. There were still whispers, still resentment from the old families who saw her as an upstart. But Elena had proven herself capable. She'd mediated disputes, managed resources, even negotiated a trade agreement with a neighboring vampire lord that had been stalled for decades. She was becoming what Theron had claimed she could be, a real queen. But with acceptance came danger of a different kind. It started with small things. A trusted servant falling suddenly ill. Food delivered to Elena's chambers that smelled wrong, off. Nothing conclusive, nothing provable. Just a series of near misses that set her nerves on edge. Someone's testing your defenses, Gabriel warned, seeing how close they can get before you notice. Who? That's the question, isn't it? The old vampire looked troubled. Varric is gone. Moira is exiled. But they had supporters, sympathizers, people who believe a human has no place on the throne. Elena increased the guards around Lily's nursery. She stopped eating anything she hadn't watched being prepared. She became hypervigilant, exhausting, always looking over her shoulder. Theron noticed. You're not sleeping. I sleep enough. Elena was reviewing security reports in the library, Lily playing at her feet with wooden blocks. I'm just being careful. You're being paranoid. Theron knelt beside her chair. I can feel it through our bond, your fear, your exhaustion. Talk to me. Someone wants me dead. Elena met his eyes. Or worse, they want Lily dead. And I can't figure out who or why or how to stop them. Then we'll figure it out together. Theron stood, pulling her to her feet. Come with me, both of you. He led them deep into the castle, to levels Elena had never seen. They descended into the earth, past the ritual chamber, past the arena, into tunnels that predated even Theron's rule. These are the old ways, Theron explained, his hand warm in hers. Built by the first vampires, long before my time. Very few know they exist. They emerged into a vast cavern. An underground lake stretched before them, its water glowing with bioluminescent algae. The ceiling was covered in crystals that refracted the light into 1,000 colors. It was beautiful, otherworldly, like something from a dream. This is where I come when the weight of the crown becomes too much, Theron said quietly. I've never shown anyone. Not even Isadora knew about this place. Elena stared at him. Why show me? Because you need to know you're not alone. That no matter what happens, you have sanctuary. This place is warded with magic older than kingdoms. Nothing can enter without my permission. If danger comes, you bring Lily here. You'll be safe. He'd given her his secret place, his refuge. Elena felt something crack open in her chest, a wall she'd built around her heart to survive this impossible situation. Theron, She didn't know how to finish the sentence. He saved her from having to try. You don't need to say anything. I just needed you to know. He looked at Lily, who was staring at the glowing water with wide eyes. Both of you. You're not just political tools or obligations. He stopped, struggling with words. You're important to me, more than I expected, more than is probably wise. Elena stepped closer. Is that such a bad thing? It's dangerous. Caring makes you vulnerable. But even as he said it, Theron's hand came up to cup her face. And yet, I find I don't care about the danger anymore. They stood there, on the shore of an underground lake, with Lily babbling happily at their feet, and Elena realized the truth. She'd fallen in love with the vampire king, with his hidden gentleness, his fierce protectiveness, the way he read stories to her daughter with such careful attention, with the man beneath the crown. We should go back, Theron said, but he didn't move away. Yes, Elena agreed, not moving either. Lily solved the problem by toddling to the water's edge and sitting down with a splash. They both lunged for her at the same time, pulling the laughing baby away from the glowing water, and the moment of tension broke into something softer, something like family. They returned to the upper levels to find the castle in chaos. Smoke poured from the east wing. Servants ran through the corridors with buckets of water. Guards shouted orders over the roar of flames. The nursery, Elena gasped. That's Lily's wing. Theron thrust the baby into Gabriel's arms. Protect her with your life. Then he and Elena ran toward the fire. The nursery was an inferno. Flames consumed the ancient wood, the precious toys, the paintings of Theron's long-dead daughter. Vampires worked to contain the blaze, but it was spreading fast, feeding on centuries of dry timber. Was anyone inside? Theron demanded. The nurse, Your Majesty. She was preparing the room for the evening when the fire started. They found the woman's body in what remained of Lily's bedroom. Elena knelt beside her, feeling for a pulse she knew wouldn't be there. The nurse was human. She'd never had a chance once the flames took hold. This wasn't an accident, Theron said, examining the burn patterns. This was set deliberately. Someone wanted to kill Lily. Elena stood, her hands shaking with rage and fear. They failed. And now we're going to find out who's behind this and make them wish they'd never been born. The investigation revealed the truth within hours. The nurse had been given a generous payment from an unknown benefactor to leave the nursery door unlocked at a specific time. She hadn't known it was for arson. She'd thought it was just a prank. The payment had come through Lady Celine, a vampire noble who'd been one of Moira's closest allies. Theron had Celine dragged to the throne room in chains. I want names, he said, his voice deadly calm. Everyone involved in this plot. Celine spat blood onto the marble floor. Go to hell. Wrong answer. Theron nodded to Gabriel, who approached with instruments Elena recognized from history books, torture devices from an era when such things were common. Wait, Elena said. Every eye in the room turned to her. Let me talk to her, alone. Elena, trust me. She met Theron's gaze. Please. He hesitated, then nodded. The throne room cleared, leaving only Elena and Celine. The vampire noble glared at her with pure hatred. Come to gloat, human? No, I came to understand. Elena sat on the steps of the dais, putting herself at Celine's eye level. Why do you hate me so much? What did I do to you? You exist, Celine snarled. You're human, weak, mortal, and yet you sit beside our king, wearing a crown you didn't earn, raising a child who has no right to inherit anything. My daughter is 6 months old. She's never hurt anyone. She's an insult to our bloodlines, a symbol of everything wrong with Theron's rule. He's gone soft, compassionate. Celine's lip curled. He's forgotten what we are. Predators, superior beings. Instead, he plays house with a waitress and pretends a human brat is his heir. Elena absorbed this, understanding finally. You're not just fighting me. You're fighting change, the idea that vampires might be something more than predators. We are predators. That's our nature. Denying it is weakness. Or maybe embracing it is the real weakness. Elena leaned forward. You're so afraid of evolution, of becoming something better, that you'd rather destroy everything Theron's built. You'd rather murder a baby than admit humans might have value beyond being food. Celine laughed bitterly. You think you've won? You think because you survived a few months, you belong here? You'll never belong. Your daughter will never belong. And eventually, when Theron remembers what he is, he'll tire of you. He'll drain you dry and move on, just like he has with every other human who thought they were special. Elena stood. You're wrong. But you'll never understand why, because you've never loved anything more than your own pride. She moved toward the door. I'm not going to torture you. I don't need to. I already have everything you wanted and could never have. His trust, his respect. She paused. Maybe even his love. She left Celine screaming curses after her. Theron found Elena in their— when had she started thinking of it as their quarters, staring out the window at the snow-covered mountains. Lily slept peacefully in a bassinet nearby, unaware of how close she'd come to death. What did Celine tell you? Theron asked. The truth, that she hates me because I represent everything she fears. Change, humanity, weakness. Elena turned to face him. She gave me 12 names, conspirators, all of them old nobles who want you to return to the old ways, isolation, predation, dominance. I'll execute them all. No. Elena's voice was firm. That's what they expect. Violence meeting violence. It'll just create martyrs, more resentment, more plots. She moved closer to him. Let me try something different. The next day, Elena stood before the same court that had once despised her and made an announcement that shocked everyone. I'm establishing a council, she said, made up of both vampires and humans. Its purpose will be to bridge the gap between our species, to find ways we can coexist peacefully, to create laws that protect both sides. The room erupted in arguments. Humans on a vampire council? Absurd. We've never tried. Elena's voice cut through the chaos. For 1,000 years, vampires have ruled through fear. And what has it gotten you? Rebellions, hatred, isolation, a kingdom that survives but doesn't thrive. She looked around at the assembled nobles. I know most of you still see me as an interloper, a human who got lucky, but I see something you don't. I see potential. A future where vampires don't have to hide in shadows, where humans don't have to live in terror, where both species work together. An old vampire stood, Lady Cassandra, one of the most ancient and respected nobles. And how would this council function? Equal representation. 6 vampires, 6 humans. They'd advise on policy, mediate disputes, propose new laws. The king would have final authority, but he'd have input from both sides. Elena looked at Theron, who stood beside his throne watching her with unreadable eyes. Real peace requires both sides having a voice. Cassandra studied Elena for a long moment. You realize this could backfire spectacularly. Humans could use this as a weapon against us. They could, just as vampires could use it to manipulate humans. That's why the council will operate with full transparency. Records kept, decisions documented, everything open to review. Elena straightened. I'm asking for trust from both sides. It's a risk, but isn't that better than the alternative? And what is the alternative? Cassandra asked. Eternal conflict, war, the eventual extinction of one or both species. Elena's voice rang with conviction. I nearly lost my daughter to conspirators who couldn't imagine a better future. I won't let fear and hatred win, not anymore. Cassandra looked at Theron. What say you, Your Majesty? Theron descended from the dais and took Elena's hand. In front of everyone, he raised it to his lips and kissed it, a gesture of respect and support. My queen has my full backing. The council will be established. Vampires and humans working together for the first time in history. He looked at the assembled nobles. And anyone who plots against this vision will answer to me, not with execution, but with exile. I'm done killing. It's time we tried building instead. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it passed. Elena's council would become reality. 6 months later, Castle Noctis was transformed. The council met twice weekly in a chamber Elena had converted from an old armory. Humans and vampires sat side by side, arguing, compromising, occasionally even laughing together. It wasn't perfect, tensions flared, old prejudices died hard. But it was working. More remarkably, the changes had spread beyond the castle walls. Villages that had once locked their doors at sunset now traded openly with vampires. A vampire healer worked alongside human doctors at the clinic in Pine Ridge. Human scholars studied in the castle library alongside vampire historians, sharing knowledge that had been kept separate for centuries. And Elena, once a waitress struggling to survive, now mediated disputes between species with the confidence of someone who'd earned her crown. Lily, now a year old, toddled through the castle corridors with a vampire guard dog named Shadow, an actual wolf-sized creature that was utterly devoted to her. She was healthy, happy, and showed signs of the enhanced abilities Theron's medicine had given her. She healed quickly from scraped knees. Her senses were sharper than a normal child's, and she seemed to instinctively know when someone was lying, a useful gift for a future ruler. "She's remarkable," Gabriel said, watching Lily play with building blocks in the throne room. "I've never seen a child so aware, so present." "She's her mother's daughter," Theron replied. He sat on his throne reviewing petitions, but his attention kept drifting to where Elena negotiated with a merchant about grain prices. Stubborn, brave, impossible to ignore. "You love her." It wasn't a question. "Which one?" Gabriel smiled. "Both, I think." Theron didn't deny it. He'd stopped trying to maintain distance from Elena months ago. She slept in his chambers now, not out of obligation, but because they both preferred it. They talked late into the night about kingdom business, about Lily's development, about everything and nothing. They hadn't formalized their relationship beyond the blood bond, but everyone could see the truth. The vampire king had fallen in love with his human queen. That evening, Theron found Elena in the garden, the night-blooming one she'd taken to maintaining herself. She sat on a bench, Lily asleep in her arms, humming softly. "That melody," Theron said, sitting beside her. "Where did you learn it?" "My grandmother taught me. She said it was a lullaby from the old country." "Why?" "My wife used to sing something similar. To our daughter." Theron touched Lily's sleeping face. "I thought it was lost, that no one remembered it anymore." Elena looked at him, understanding dawning. "You think my grandmother—" "What? Knew vampires?" "I think music transcends species, that some songs are so old, so universal, they survive everything." He met her eyes. "Like some connections." "Theron, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I didn't expect this, any of it. You, Lily, this feeling that I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm living." He took her free hand. "I thought, after Isadora, I was done, finished, that I'd rule with an empty heart until time finally claimed me. And then you climbed my mountain in a storm, and everything changed." Elena's breath caught. "I was just trying to save my daughter, and you saved me instead." Theron's voice was raw with emotion. "You reminded me what it feels like to hope, to care, to love again, even though I swore I never would." "Theron, I love you, Elena. Not because our blood is bound, not because you're useful or convenient. I love you because you're brave and kind and stronger than any warrior I've ever known. I love the way you sing to Lily, the way you fight for what's right even when it's terrifying, the way you see the best in people, even monsters like me." Elena was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "You're not a monster. I've done monstrous things. I've killed, conquered, ruled through fear. But with you, I want to be better. I want to be the man you see when you look at me, not the vampire king everyone fears." Elena shifted Lily carefully to one arm and cupped Theron's face with her free hand. "I love you too. I think I have for months, but I was afraid to admit it, afraid it would break the fragile peace we'd built. But I'm done being afraid." She leaned in, her lips brushing his. "I love you, Theron Dravos, all of you, the king and the man, the vampire and the father, the monster and the miracle." They kissed there in the garden, under stars neither of them could fully appreciate, with Lily sleeping peacefully between them. It wasn't the desperate passion of new lovers, but something deeper, harder won. A love built on understanding, trust, and the shared knowledge that they'd both survived their own personal hells and found each other on the other side. When they pulled apart, Theron rested his forehead against Elena's. Marry me. Properly. Not a blood bond or political arrangement. Marry me because we choose each other. We're already married. That was survival. This is love. He pulled back to look at her fully. I want to stand before the kingdom and declare that you're mine, not because of oaths or obligations, but because I can't imagine existence without you. Say yes. Elena laughed through her tears. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Lily chose that moment to wake up, blinking sleepily at them both. She reached for Theron with chubby hands, and he took her, cradling her with practiced ease. You're going to be flower girl, he told the baby seriously. Think you can handle that responsibility? Lily giggled and grabbed his nose. Elena watched them, her daughter and the vampire king who'd become her father in every way that mattered, and felt something she'd never expected to feel again after years of poverty and struggle. Complete happiness. The wedding took place in the garden on the first night of spring. They'd waited months wanting to do it properly, with both vampire and human traditions honored. The ceremony would occur under the stars, conducted by Gabriel using ancient rites that predated both species' recorded histories. Elena wore a dress of midnight blue silk, embroidered with silver thread that caught the moonlight. Her hair was crowned with night-blooming flowers. She looked like something from a fairy tale, a mortal queen marrying a vampire king, their love story written in defiance of every rule both species held sacred. Theron wore black, as always, but his cloak was lined with cloth of silver, and his dark hair was braided with threads that matched Elena's crown. He looked like what he was, ancient, powerful, and utterly devoted to the woman walking toward him through the garden. Lily toddled ahead of Elena, scattering flower petals with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Shadow the wolf creature followed, ensuring she didn't wander off path. The guests, a mix of vampires and humans, nobles and servants, all seated together, smiled at the child's antics. Elena reached the altar where Theron waited. He took her hands, and she felt the now familiar thrill of their blood bond thrumming between them. But this was more than blood. This was choice. Gabriel began the ceremony. We gather tonight to witness the bonding of two souls who have chosen each other across all barriers. Species, time, fear, none of it could keep them apart. King Theron, do you take Elena as your wife, your queen, your partner in all things? I do. Theron's voice was steady. In this life and whatever comes after, I choose her. And Elena, do you take Theron as your husband, your king, your partner in all things? Elena looked into blood-red eyes that had terrified her once and now only made her feel safe. I do. In this life and whatever comes after, I choose him. They exchanged rings, simple bands of silver and gold intertwined, symbolizing two species, two lives bound together. Gabriel blessed them in words so old no one remembered their origin, and then Theron pulled Elena close and kissed her as if she were the only thing anchoring him to the world. The crowd erupted in applause, vampire and human voices mingling for the first time in joy rather than conflict. The celebration afterward was unlike anything Castle Noctis had ever seen. Humans and vampires danced together to music that blended both cultures' traditions. Food and drink flowed freely. Lily, overwhelmed by attention and tired from her flower girl duties, fell asleep in Theron's arms halfway through the feast. He carried her to bed personally, unwilling to delegate even this small task. When he returned, he found Elena on a balcony overlooking the kingdom, staring at the horizon where dawn would soon break. Thinking about running away? He asked, sliding arms around her waist from behind. Thinking about how far I've come. Elena leaned back against him. A year ago, I was a waitress living in one room, terrified my daughter would die, with no hope and no future. Now I'm a queen, with a family and a kingdom and a future I never imagined possible. You created it. You and your stubborn refusal to accept the world as it was. Theron kissed her temple. You've changed everything, Elena. Not just for me, but for thousands of people who are seeing a different path forward. We changed it, Elena corrected. You could have killed me that first night. Instead, you saved Lily. You gave us a chance. I gave myself a chance, Theron replied. A chance to be something more than a lonely king counting centuries until oblivion. You taught me that. They stood there as the sky began to lighten, not enough to harm Theron, but enough to paint the clouds pink and gold. The castle's enchanted windows would protect him, but they both knew the symbolism was important. A vampire king watching the dawn beside his human queen. Light and darkness, finally finding balance. The council is proposing new laws, Elena said. Protections for humans in vampire territories, rights, representation, fair treatment. And in exchange, humans would guarantee safe passage for vampires, provide willing donors instead of forcing vampires to hunt. Revolutionary. Terrifying, Elena corrected. Half the old nobles still think I'm corrupting you, and plenty of humans think I'm a traitor for marrying a vampire. And yet you persist. Of course I do. Someone has to. Elena turned in his arms to face him. Besides, I have excellent motivation. A daughter who deserves a world where she's not feared for being different. A husband who deserves a kingdom that reflects his vision. And myself, I deserve to live in a world I helped create. Theron laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Have I mentioned lately that you're magnificent? Not in the last hour. Elena grinned. You're slacking, Your Majesty. Then let me remedy that. He swept her up in his arms, making her squeal. You, Elena Dravos, are magnificent, brilliant, frustrating, brave, and somehow, impossibly, mine. He carried her inside as dawn broke fully over the mountains. The castle came alive with the day shift, human servants who now worked alongside vampire night staff in a rhythm that was becoming natural. In the nursery, Lily slept surrounded by toys from both cultures, protected by guards of both species. Castle Noctis had become what its king and queen envisioned, a place where old enemies learned to coexist, where fear gave way to understanding, where a waitress and a vampire king proved that love could bridge any divide. Years later, when Lily was grown and ruling her own territory with the wisdom her parents had taught her, she would tell the story of how her mother climbed a mountain in a storm to save her life and accidentally saved a kingdom in the process. How a desperate act of maternal love had rippled outward, transforming an entire world. But on this morning, as Theron and Elena fell into bed exhausted from their wedding celebration, the future was just a dream. The present was enough. They had each other, they had Lily, and they had hope. The rarest commodity in any kingdom, mortal or immortal. The vampire king had found his queen, and the waitress had found her home.